I'm Joanna Blackwelder. I'm a mother of 3. I'm one of those persons that God has kind of gifted with, a lot of wonderful things in my life. Felt like I was going to do big things. When I got married and we started planning a family, it was real frustrating because it took us 5 years before I even got the first positive pregnancy test. So I remember going to the women's clinic. So I'm sitting in there waiting for my pregnancy test to be confirmed and looking at all the pictures of the babies and just so elated. And I walked up to the window and they said, "I'm sorry, but it's negative." I remember then walking out to my car and just really crying and saying, "Lord, if it's meant for me to be a barren woman, I'm still going to love you." Needless to say, I wasn't barren, and I have 3 beautiful children. And Jacob, my first one, I remember specifically being in the hospital, and when they placed him in my arms, I will never forget. It was like tangibly scales fell from my eyes, and I knew without a doubt my purpose was to raise this child in the admonition of the Lord. Jacob is just one of these children that just did everything right. And we looked at each other after 1 year of him being in our home and being a part of our family, and we thought, what is wrong with people? Having kids is a piece of cake. Let's have more, because he's just such a wonderful child. So God blessed us with another son and a little girl, and all 3 of them are tremendous blessings. When Jake had his accident, which he was 10 years old, it was a couple of weeks after his birthday, I couldn't understand. I didn't know why it happened, but I had this incredible peace that nothing happens in our lives that isn't sifted through God's hands. And there was a purpose for why he allowed my little boy to go through a near-drowning experience and to suffer the severe head injury that he has today. I remember thinking, well, how am I going to fulfill all my hopes and goals of going to Africa and being a missionary or doing big things for God that I had always wanted to do? I mean, I've just always loved the Lord and knew my purpose was to do big things for Him. I was at a retreat with one of my friends for Moms in Touch, and I was walking around the lake, and it was like God said, "Jake is your mission." I remember thinking, okay, Lord, that's not what I thought, not what I planned, but I can't think of anything greater. And it just kind of pulled everything together. The feeling I had when they placed him in my arms, and this feeling like what my purpose was. And then hearing God, not through ears, but through my heart, that His mission for me was to raise up my children and to teach them about who God is and allow that to be the way I glorify Him. As I've watched my son go through, unspeakable things that, you don't even share with the public because it's too painful for you to admit. And I've watched God every single step of the way intervene when he's hurting, and I've given him everything that I know to give him to make the pain go away. And I bow my head and I pray. And almost sometimes before I'm finished praying, Jake stops hurting. And it's like, God, why do I wait and exhaust my efforts before I come to you? Why don't I come to you first? It's not anything that I'm doing, but it's the way I visibly and tangibly see God's faithfulness to my precious son, Jake, to me when I am depleted and there's nothing left, and he fills me back up. The way He has used Jacob to influence both his siblings. Casey is a physical therapist to this day because she's watched how other therapists have been used by God to help Jake. My son Cody, who's in med school now, attributes watching his brother and what all his needs were and what doctors were able to do to help us, to why he is pursuing the avenue that he's pursuing. But for me, I have just watched what the world would think of as something that is insignificant and not worthy be so powerful in our lives. I mean, I look at Jake and I think, how can I feel sorry for myself when things are going rough? I mean, this child has stayed so engaged in his world and in his family, even though he can't talk. He's in a wheelchair, he's basically quadriplegic. He's trapped, what we call trapped-in syndrome, where you know his mind is sharp and he understands, but he isn't able to interact back. But you can look at Jake and know that he knows everything that's going on. There are times when he looks at me and it's like, Mom, it's okay. And his courage, most people would have turned to his wall and checked out, because that's how difficult his life is. And he is such an inspiration. Being able to put something before yourself is a hard thing to do. For me, learning to let go of my goals, of how I thought I could serve God, and realize that I could serve Him best by taking care of my precious child, wasn't easy. It's human for us to want to live out, what we think is the right way or what will bring happiness. But it's totally different when you finally get to the point where you can let go of yourself, let go of your dreams and your aspirations, and say, God, your way is better. I am so fulfilled by doing it God's way. You don't have to do it alone. It isn't on your basis or your abilities. It's on submitting to God and saying, Lord, I need you to help me do this. And then watching His faithfulness. I would have to literally be blind and hard-hearted not to see and acknowledge that everything that I have today, the joy in my heart, the peace, the blessings my children are living, are all because God has intervened each step of the way where that journey was too hard or that task too difficult. When you trust Him and when you are willing to do it His way, you can't help but succeed. I'm Joanna Blackwelder. I'm a mother of 3, and my son Jacob Aaron Blackwelder is a surgeon.